Welcome back. Southern California, a former homeland of my next guest. You hear him here at WNST as part of the Talk of Fame Network. He's been my friend for a number of years and a mentor to other mentors of mine back in the early 80s when he did his residency here covering the Baltimore Colts in Baltimore, where he then went out to San Diego because, well, he's a smart guy. I bring intelligent guests onto the program, and he made a good little quarter of a century out there covering the San Diego Superchargers. He is Clark Judge, TOF out on Twitter, and he joins us now from somewhere, I don't know, Connecticut, New York, New Jersey, somewhere around the boroughs. Clark, what is up, man? I can't go out to San Diego without thinking like you being out there all those years, being Mr. Charger Insider guy. Boy, the world has changed, hasn't it?
Yeah, it has, because I covered losing teams out there. They were exciting teams. They were the end of the Air Coryell era, but they weren't going to the playoffs. And then they were the year I left, but I went north to San Francisco to cover the 49ers, and lo and behold, the 49ers played the Chargers in that 1994 Super Bowl. And I said to somebody, I know more about the opposing team than I do about the team that I'm covering. And honestly, I remember I went down to San Diego because the 49ers played the Chargers that year, and I was on the radio, and they were saying something about, the Chargers are 17.5-point underdogs. And I said, it's not high enough. And one of the secretaries there was livid with me, and she said, you worked here all these years. How could you say that? And I said, because I cover the 49ers now. I watch them. What a difference in practice. The ball never hits the ground. They'll put 17.5 on them easy, and they did. They won in a runaway.
Well, it wasn't a very good Super Bowl. I do remember those. I had block pools back in the day. I just gotten on the radio. We didn't have a football team here in Baltimore. We were never getting a football team. And San Diego was going to have a team forever, right? They were going to get Super Bowls forever, right? And man, I remember it's been 20 years now since I sat at that press conference where Tagliabue basically said, look, this is it. We're not doing any more Super Bowls out here until you guys figure it out. And they figured out the Padres. They never figured out the government. And Clark, I've admitted this week. I mean, we're playing out there. It's Christmas week. My wife's going to be in New Hampshire with her family this week, and I can kind of go wherever I want. I can hang out in Vegas and fly in for the game or whatever. I think I'm going to go to San Diego for a couple days and just sort of mellow out there and figure things out and figure Tony Gwynn out, because I don't know the next time I'm getting back to San Diego because it's not on the circuit anymore, man. And that's I don't even know how to react to that after 30 years of it being the most important place on my circuit, Yeah,
I do, because I covered the Colts, and they left. I covered the Chargers, and they left. I covered the 49ers. They moved to Santa Clara from Candlestick. But the Chargers one hits me not as hard as the Colts, but it hits me hard. It's going to take me years to get over that. That's a good community that supported the team. And essentially they said, why should we be bailing out a guy who's making $1 gazillion when we've got needs of our own? We don't want to pay for the stadium. And that's what it came down to. So they go to L.A., a city that doesn't want them, and they fill it with opposing fans from opposing teams. They play 16 away games. That's the reality of it. The Chargers don't have a home game because everyone goes to the StubHub Center to root for the other team. And it holds maybe 25,000. That's why I'd love to see the AFC Conference Championship game be in L.A. because you could have 15,000 people and 10,000 media. It served the league, and Dean Spano's right for making that move. I understand why I made it. I don't agree with it. I don't like it. But that's the way it is. And I will tell you, if you're going to San Diego, and I would too, make sure you go down to the Hotel del Coronado, because there is not a better place to be this time of year. My wife always says, San Diego at Christmas time. I said, the Hotel del is the place to go. Huge Christmas tree in the lobby. I go there almost every year. At least I used to go.
Do you put your ice skates on when you're there and pretend that you're
skating rink outside? They've got a skating rink outside. You skate and look at the ocean. It's unreal. But go inside. The Hotel del is, of course, one of the greatest hotels in the world, but that's my favorite place to be at Christmas time.
Well, I'm at a meaningful football game, and my football team was 4-5. And I think maybe the last time we got together or thereabouts or sometime in October, I believe that we were on the skids and things were bad and there was going to be a parting of the ways and Harbaugh and Flacco and Lamar and here we go. And now all of a sudden it's win and you get in and you got to go out to L.A. and do something. And I think we could sit here all day and just talk about the Ravens and the changes in what this offense has meant for the defense, for time of possession. Things that, look, I've been watching football almost as long as you at this point on scale, and I never thought of it like this. I never thought, well, if you totally change the offense and you hold the ball 10, 12, 14 times, your defense will then only have to play 47 plays on a rainy Sunday at home.
Mm-hmm.
And when your defense plays 47 plays and there are guys like Jimmy Smith, injured guys like Mosley, tired guys at the end of the year, you're going to get 47 better plays out of Terrell Suggs right now and Eric Weddle than you're going to get play 84.
Yeah, you never thought about it, Nestor, because everyone tells you it's a passing league. You know, we just gush over passing stats, 400-yard games, 1,500-yard seasons for receivers. We just gush about that. But they're routine, and honestly, frankly, I think they're boring, and it makes it not a really interesting game. That's why I always like the Steelers and the Ravens, because their games are low-scoring and they're about defense. And lo and behold, now as we get closer to the playoffs, we get a weekend like yesterday. There was one 300-yard passing game, one by Jared Goff, who's struggling, and he lost. And there were 9 100-yard rushing games. I just think when it comes down to it, you run the ball, you can run the clock, and you can give your defense a rest. And defense does, it's the oldest cliche in the world, but it does win championships. We saw it in 2007 with Brady, 2011 with Brady, 2013 with Manning with the Seahawks, and 2015 with Manning again, who was a shell of himself. Essentially, the Broncos played without a quarterback, and they got after the MVP, Cam Newton, and they won with a pass rush. So you can win with defense. You saw the 2000 Ravens. You won with defense. That was a great defense. But you're right. I mean, you run the ball, run the clock, you keep your defense off the field and keep it fresh. Now, we've got to have players, too. And they've got players. They've got some good players. But you're right. The defense has been revitalized with this. I don't think the long-term plan is going to work, to be honest with you. I mean, I think running does, but have a quarterback who's running 27 times a game or 17 times a game, not going to work. I mean, at some point, he's going to get hurt. And it's just as a matter of time, he's going to get hurt. And you've seen an injury here or there, but he bounces up. He's ready to go the next game. For the long term, that's not going to last. And there's no better example than the guy who's behind him. That's RG3. And the team he played was Baltimore. So Haloti Ngata to put him out. So I like what they're doing. I think for the short term, it's great. For the long term, I don't know that it can work. In fact, I don't think it can. I think you've got to have a nice combination there, but I love the fact that they're running people to death.
No one does a finer job of covering the National Football League than my pal Clark Judge. You can follow him and his beautiful dog through Central Park this winter out on Twitter at Clark Judge, TOF. That stands for Talk of Fame. It is a Talk of Fame network. He is a Hall of Fame voter. And, boy, I could just parrot you guys all day long, whether it's Ed Reed and what we're voting on and how pissed we all are about this Harold Baines thing, because I know you're a baseball fan as well.
God.
I mean, do you want to rant on that just for a minute? Let's just stop football for a minute. Because you love baseball. You love sports.
I do love baseball. Yeah. I love baseball.
I know you do.
That's why Harold Baines, I never looked at Harold Baines as that's a Hall of Fame player. He's a good player.
Neither did Harold Baines. Harold Baines didn't look at Harold Baines as a Hall of Fame player.
Yeah, I couldn't understand it. So I called Rick Gosselin and I called Ron Borges. They're both voters. I'm not. And I said, what in God's name is this all about? I said, don't get after us. This had to do with another committee, and it was Tony La Russa was pushing him. Well, I understand Tony La Russa was pushing, but somebody had to vote for him. How do you vote? I mean, listen, Harold Baines is a good player. I'm not trying to denigrate him, but he's not a Hall of Fame player. There's a huge difference. And I think now you've opened the door to everybody, anybody now. And so are we looking at all DHs? What are we looking at? I don't know. I mean, I was absolutely bowled over. Lee Smith, I can understand. Harold Baines, no.
All right, so lowering the bar, obviously the Chargers franchise lowered the bar on what they're willing to accept from a fan base and where they are. And, maybe being around the Spanos family, you didn't sort of understand the greed that lied underneath of that, where you're going to be a tenant to the Rams.
No, I understood it.
You did?
I was around them a long time. Yeah, I understood it.
Well, what made it stand as long as it did? Why didn't they take a bigger, better deal a long time ago to somewhere else? I mean, they believed they were going to get the money at some point, right?
Yeah, I think Dean Spanos had made up his mind he was going to L.A., and then he got the rug pulled out from under him because they had that Carson deal with the Raiders, and lo and behold, money talks, nobody walks, and so Jerry Jones says, listen, it's a better deal here. We're going to go to Inglewood with the Rams. We're going to get him out of St. Louis and move him there, even though St. Louis is building a stadium. And so they go for that and say, listen, we'll mollify one of you guys. Okay, Dean, it'll be you because the Raiders are going to Las Vegas. You have a year option. And so basically he went back to the fan base and said, okay, we've got a year to basically get a vote going. and try to get a stadium through. And the fans said, what are you talking about, a stadium? You've got a ton of money. We need to pave the roads. We've got education problems, police problems. We've got to pay for public servants here. What are you talking about? And so the vote came up, and they got, I think, something like 42%. He thought it would be closer to 50, and it was supposed to be a two-thirds vote, but had it been more like 56, 57, I think people said he probably could have swallowed his pride. But I think it came down to pride, Nestor, in all honesty. I think he said, okay, well, if that's the way they feel, I'm taking my ball and going home. And he goes to L.A., and, of course, you know the Bill Plaschke column that appeared that day in the L.A. Times. He said, here's our message to the Chargers. The day they made that announcement, here's our message to the Chargers. We, period, don't, period, want, period, you, period. And they've demonstrated it ever since. They demonstrate ever since. They don't care about the Chargers up there. Never have.
It's a fascinating thing, man. I mean, we got 20,000 people at our ballpark here now. You know, after 25 years of brand, a dozen years of not having a team, all the old bleeding hearts for the Colts, and I'm now 50, Clark, you know, and I was a kid going to Colts games. That's how long they've been gone now. That I don't know what the league is thinking if people don't have a real passion for it in any other way other than gambling or a fantasy team. That if you don't have a municipality, if you don't have tribal, regional, parochial, local, us against them, Baltimore against Pittsburgh, Boston against New York, if you don't have that, I don't know the basis you're going to have for people wanting to spend their money to come out to a cocktail party in L.A. I really don't.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, you're right. But I don't think Dean gets that. I really don't. Listen, he's not, to me, he's not an old football guy. I mean, he and his family, I mean, A.G. Spanos, Alex Spanos, bought that team in 1984. And he came in as a real estate guy, essentially. And he didn't know that much about football, but he did it as a business deal. His son got in there as a businessman and president, became essentially the acting owner after a while, after Alex went back to, well, he was always in Stockton, but he started declining in health, and so Dean took over the team. But he's not a football guy. I mean, this isn't the Maras and the Rooneys we're talking about. And so I think he looked at L.A. and said, it's a viable market. I can make a lot of more money up there than I can here, and these fans have turned their backs on me, so I'm going somewhere I'm going to make money. And hopefully we can get the fans to warm up to us. Well, it didn't work out, and you were told it wasn't going to work out, but it didn't. And now he's got to share a stadium with another team, and it's never going to be looked at as a Chargers stadium. It's always going to be the Rams stadium. I lived in New York for many years, and that was always the Giants stadium. Shared with the Jets, it was the Giants stadium. The Jets were just co-tenants. It could be the same thing here. And I don't think, Stan Kroenke is particularly wild about sharing that stadium with Dean. And
well, you need something when you have a stadium. You need fans to fill it up.
He can make more money there. He can make more money there, and that's what he's looking at.
Yeah, but then who's going to come to a 100,000-seat stadium with nobody in it?
No, that's a good question.
Well, I mean, they're doing everything perfectly, right? No, they're 11-3. Phillip Rivers is all world. They're playing this huge game. If they win a couple more times, they might get playoff games, the whole deal. And yet, when you can't build the fan base, when you have these assets right now, right? I mean, I don't. Again, if winning doesn't attract attention, Miami Marlins, from your baseball fandom, when you're winning championships and you don't have fans, it probably means the municipality doesn't really warrant having a franchise, right?
Yeah, no, that's right. I mean, I think that Dean basically brought into the Field of Dreams idea. If you build it, they will come. And they're building it, but they ain't coming. They're not coming to the stadium you've got. And I think in his mind, he just thought that the NFL is such a narcotic that no matter where you play, people can't wait to see it. Well, not so much anymore. You look at, I looked at the numbers of games yesterday. I saw stadiums that were a third empty, upper tiers empty. Sure, they're selling out maybe, I guess, we never know unless you see the receipts. But there are a lot of empty seats there, a lot of people dressed as empty seats. And with Dean, I think he felt that going up to L.A., okay, there are a gazillion people there. You can tell me we can't fill that stadium every weekend? And the reality is, no, you can't. I mean, you can't even fill a 25,000-seat stadium. But you can if the Raiders are in town, because all the Raider fans are coming there. And really, the home team there is the Raiders. Always will be. When the Chargers play, even when the Chargers play down in San Diego, Raiders had a huge contingent. In L.A., too, because they used to be there. But the fact of the matter is, you want to fill that stadium, put the Raiders there against anybody, and they'll show up. But the Chargers, not so much.
And instead, the Raiders are headed to Las Vegas, and the draft is headed to Las Vegas. Clark Judge is headed here. He is Clark Judge, TOF. That's Talk of Fame Network. Heard on weekends here on Sundays at WNST as well. All right, so for the Chargers and where they are in winning at this point, and who's going to be in Atlanta the next time you and I are in the same room at the same time for the Super Bowl. This is an interesting tournament all the way around now that the Rams have fallen, the Chiefs have fallen, the Patriots have had their nose bloodied, the Steelers have only won one game in the last month. Here come the Titans and the Colts and the Ravens and the Chargers. It's a fascinating tournament here as we turn the corner for the holiday and New Year's. I mean, we got the Browns next week. If we win this game, we feel like, well, we're in. The Browns aren't the Browns anymore.
That's right.
They're better. I mean, that's not going to be an easy game. As a Ravens fan, I don't think you can ask for more than 8-6 when you were 4-5 and this transition of Joe Flacco. But I just think around the league, it's fun being an NFL fan, and I'm looking forward to Thursday Night Football when the Chiefs are playing the Chargers and watching that and watching Phillip Rivers' demeanor after the game. I'm watching the 4 o'clock game because it's New England and Pittsburgh. They've got me like I'm a fish on a hook right now, Clark. I really am.
Yeah, you don't live in L.A. You live in Baltimore, so you've got a passion for it. The thing is also, just go back to this L.A. thing. I mean, there's so many distractions out there. You can go to the beach. You can do a zillion things because it's 70 degrees every day. So there are other things you have to convince people to come out. And the Chargers haven't done it despite the fact that they're winning. They want more than just that. And as I've said before, they made it clear from the very beginning, we're not passionate about you. Could we be passionate about the Rams? Yeah, but they were here 20 years ago, but they were down in Anaheim. Yeah, we might be. And they're warming up to them, but the Rams are cooling off. I mean, honestly, at this point, the Chargers look like they might be the better team. I look at the picture now, the way you described it, and I think absolutely, the NFC to me is pretty clear. The NFC is not wide open. The NFC to me is New Orleans and everybody else. And I think New Orleans, if and when they clinch the home field advantage, which is going to be very soon, that win last night by the Eagles really put them on the road to hosting every playoff game. And they're almost impossible to beat at home. It's a different atmosphere. You've been there. It's very tough to beat those guys at home. Plus, you look at Breeze this year at home, 20 TDs, 1 interception, a different quarterback there. All right, when you take dome teams and put them outside for conference championship games, we know what happens. They lose. They always lose. They've got to be indoors. So I like the NFC with New Orleans. AFC's wide open. I immediately dismissed New England yesterday. I mean, I love watching the Patriots. I got to admit it because I love watching the quarterback. They make way too many penalties, and there's not enough Tom Brady at this point to rescue this team. Can't win on the road. They can't tackle. They're not particularly well coached, it doesn't seem like at this point. They drop a lot of passes. Brady's not normally Tom Brady's playing well enough to take him to the Super Bowl, but people want to pin it on him. You know, I see somebody, there's ESPN saying, we reached a cliff. He played well enough yesterday to win. Nevertheless, he makes a bad throw in the red zone. He made a bad mistake in the red zone a week ago. That's 2 more than he normally makes.
Boy, that lollipop he threw and left out there. I mean, and you know.
Yeah, no, I know. But listen.
He made a hell of a play.
That didn't cost him the game. But they made so many penalties. There were like 8 pre-snap penalties. I think 15 in total. And there were calls I didn't get. They didn't play well enough to win, but they didn't play well enough to win the week before in Miami. And they should have won that game. They're not closing out opponents like they used to. They don't have it. And so if they're not going to be one of the top 2 seeds, but especially the home seed, because they can't lose at home, they're 3-5 on the road, forget them. Move them on. And so now you look at Kansas City. Kansas City's faltering too. What do we know about the Chiefs? Well, this time of year, they go south too. And what's happened? 2 of the last 4 games, they've lost. They should have lost 3 of the last 4 games. They were lucky to win that game against Baltimore. They lost against the Chargers, and they're 11. They've lost 11 of the last 12 playoff games, including 6 at home at Arrowhead. Well, we say, geez, they can't lose at Arrowhead. Well, they should have lost to the Ravens at Arrowhead. They did lose to the Chargers at Arrowhead. And so I know their faithful's going, here we go again. Andy Reid's lost 6 of his last 7 playoff games. They have a tough time closing. So who's left? I mean, I look at Houston and I think, I'm not wild about Houston, but if they're the 2nd seed, I could buy them. I could buy into them because they can play defense where the Chiefs can't. Chiefs can't play defense in the back end. Yeah, they got Barry back, but so what? They're a mess back there.
I think Houston will be a hellhole. If you have to go down there and play in a big game, which they haven't had a lot of big games down there, I think that place could get electric. After a bye week, I think that it could be sticky going down there.
But somebody can beat them down there, and that somebody's Indianapolis. Indianapolis did beat them down there, and then they lost to overtime to them early in the season when they took a chance, and it was an unnecessary chance. They were trying to win the game. They lost it. They can beat them. Indianapolis is a dangerous team. If they get in, they're dangerous. Look at their defense. They're playing well now. They shut out the Cowboys, for God's sake. You know, they've given up 27 points in the last 3 weeks, and they've got Andrew Luck. I mean, you know, you've got a quarterback who can run. They've got a quarterback who can run and throw. and he's a dangerous, dangerous quarterback right now. At one point, I thought he was really an outside shot to be MVP. He's not so much, but he's playing well. And now 2 of the last 3 weeks, he hasn't thrown a touchdown pass. But they won yesterday without him throwing. That shows you now they can run, they can pass protect, they can play defense. They're doing everything they didn't do a year ago. To me, that's the dangerous team. I think the Ravens, because they're playing defense, but as I said, sooner or later this is going to catch up to them. You got to throw the ball at some point. I mean, Jackson can make some plays. Can't make a lot. I mean, to me, he's a very inaccurate passer. Maybe that changes as time goes on, but you look at Andrew Luck, very accurate passer. Deshaun Watson, more accurate than Lamar Jackson, certainly in the threat to run. So that's what I think you're looking at. I think the AFC is completely, as you said, completely wide open. It's fun to see. Pittsburgh, they just, despite yesterday's game, I thought the Patriots lost it. I think the Steelers won it. Despite that game, they struggle defensively too. I mean, you lose a game to Oakland.
No, you're not going to have to go anywhere and face a powerhouse. I mean, if you're the Ravens and you're playing Week 1 in wherever, Pittsburgh, New England, wherever it would be, you're not boots quaking. You got to go win a game.
Yeah, right.
You got to go win on the road. But this isn't going to see Brady in 2008. It's not.
That's right. I mean, every team's flawed, Nestor. Every team is flawed. But you're not going to go to New England. To me, if you go to New England, conference championship game, Brady and those guys will find a way to beat you. They just will. But I look at them now. They're, as I said, 3-5 on the road. They're going to have to go on the road somewhere. Doesn't make any difference. They're just not a good team. And there's something missing. Sure what it is, but as I said, the last 2 weeks they haven't been able to tackle, and that Miami Miracle is a joke. I mean, I don't know what the defense is doing, but they can't tackle, and the Steelers can't cover. So now you go look at who the teams can play defense. Well, Baltimore can, Indianapolis can, Houston can. Of those 3, which one do you like? I'll go Houston 1, Indianapolis 2, Baltimore 3.
Clark Judge is out at TalkOfFameNetwork.com. You can also find him on Twitter at Clark Judge, TOF, standing for Talk of Fame. All right, last 2 things Raven-oriented here. I mean, we've all talked about Lamar Jackson and throwing the football and sustainability. Will Joe Flacco throw another pass for the Ravens, Clark? Will he?
Whoa, that's a good question. Only if Jackson's hurt. Only if he's hurt, I'd say. So the answer is,
so you get down 13 points, and there's 9 minutes left to go, and you're in the first week of the road in the playoffs.
No, I think you're so committed to this guy now, there's no turning back. You've turned this offense over to him. Why would you jack around with him and say, we're going to pull it off the field, we're going to put Joe Flacco back on? I think you're messing with his head. No, I think he's there to stay. I think he comes off only if he's hurt.
You fully agree with that and understand all that with Flacco, and knowing that I'm assuming they'll get something back they'll get a 4th or a 5th or a 3rd from somebody, and that Flacco will go on in Jacksonville, Miami, name any, Denver. There's a whole bunch of places he can go sit. Yeah. The Giants. Yeah. I mean, you give him Saquon Barkley and Odell Beckham, really? Joe Flacco might be 13-3 there next year if they play defense. And Joe Flacco, I believe, if you gave me $1, because I know what he's made of, I know what kind of guy he is, and I buy into the integrity part of this. If you give me $1, Joe Flacco will quarterback a playoff game again in the National Football League. That's my opinion.
I don't doubt that. I'm with you on that. I love Joe Flacco. Always have. I love
it. Might be 2 weeks from now, by the way, too. So that's possible, right?
It might be. Who knows? He's not going to the Giants. The Giants have already basically said, well, we're committed to Eli Manning for next year and years to come, which I think is a huge mistake. They need to find a successor very, very quickly. Eli Manning's a descending quarterback. He can't carry that team, and he hasn't for years. You look at under Eli Manning, 6 of the last 7 years, they missed the playoffs. And he's got to take some responsibility for that. And they say, well, it's the offensive line, it's the defense, it's this. No, I mean, at some point, he has to take responsibility. Listen.
Well, Flacco took responsibility, he lost his job. I mean, Eli took responsibility last year, he lost his job, right?
Yeah, right. And I hear that, and I go, well, in whatever it was, 2000, I'm trying to think what the year, 2011, I think Brady played with the 31st ranked defense. Well, they got to the Super Bowl. They should have won it, people said. Well, they did. But quarterbacks can lift teams, and I saw Joe Flacco lift that team in 2012, and that was a great run he had. I mean, it's a long time ago. It was a great run he had. He's had an average record since then. So, it's time for him to move on to somewhere where he can be productive. Could it be in Jacksonville? Yeah, I think it could be. I mean, I think he could probably profit there. Could it be in Denver? I don't know. I'm not so sure. They've got to figure out what they're doing there, and I don't know that they really ever have at that position John Elway's made a lot of good draft choices this year at other positions. Going to have to find a quarterback sooner or later. Case Keenum is not the solution. But Joe Flacco will end up somewhere. He is a guy who can be a winning quarterback in the right situation, but I don't think that's going to happen in the Giants. To me, it's Eli or the next young quarterback, not Eli going to Joe Flacco. I'm with you. I love Flacco. I love watching him play, but I think it's time for him to find a new home.
Well, and he will be finding a new home. Last thing, will John Harbaugh be finding a new home? I know
that's a good question. That's a good question.
And for me, it's complex, right? With all the jobs that could be out there.
Yeah.
We're 2 weeks out on Black Monday, right? All right. I mean, literally.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's funny, Nestor. In fact, when you started this, I was going to ask you about that because you're talking about when they were 4-5, and when they were 4-5, we were talking about where is John Harbaugh going to be coaching next? Where is he going to be next year? And now they've got a chance, at least a chance, to win that division. What if they win that division and go deep into the playoffs? And what's next for Harbaugh? What's next for John Harbaugh? And I don't necessarily think his leaving, even if it were voluntarily, is a bad idea, because I do kind of buy into this idea, unless there's exceptional circumstances. An exceptional circumstance would be, for instance, being with Tom Brady in New England. Bill Belichick's been there since 2000. So he's been there 18 seasons, or 19 seasons now. So you have
Marvin Lewis's relationship with the Brown family is exceptional. It's unique.
Yeah. Or if you're in Pittsburgh, I mean, they have 3 coaches in 50 years. If you have extraordinary circumstances, I think after 10 years, it's probably good to move on, only because I think it's good for the coach as well as the players. Sometimes I think they can tune you out. Sometimes you start doing things by rote, and I think you need to be energized. I saw it with Andy Reid in Philadelphia, and he said, I don't buy into it. But all of a sudden, I saw when that team started to go south and they were losing games they used to win, what happened there? I mean, was it the talent got that bad? Andy needed to be energized again, and he got it from going to Kansas City, something we're talking about. Andy Reid's one of the great coaches. Well, he's a great coach, but he wasn't at the end of his career in Philadelphia. And I saw it with Bill Walsh. I mean, Bill Walsh got burned out. Coaches get burned out. It's a tough job. It's a really tough job, and to go at it that long and have people criticizing your every move daily, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. It's not the draft. It's some waiver wire. It's some punt decision, some decision on fourth down. They're constantly on you, and I think it takes its toll. So I don't know what's going to happen to him. I think John Harbaugh is a terrific coach. They're talking about demeanor. It's a guy I like because he's got an edge to him. I like that. I think he's a very smart guy. I think he's got a resume that stands up to almost anybody. But at some point, you go, maybe it's best for both sides to move away. Is that this year? I don't know. You're closer to that than I am. But I would like to see them get in the playoffs. I would like to see them make a deep run, because I think this guy needs to be appreciated as being one of the best coaches around.
Well, that's why it's getting thick right now as we head out to Southern California. I'll be at a little cafe where they play guitars all night and all day. You'll hear them in the back room strumming. Hey, Clark, take care of yourself.
I said hello. Would you please?
Yeah. I mean, I'll be jumping out the back door, I think, is what I'll be doing there. So, hey, thank you very much for making some time. Happy holidays to you. It's always a pleasure talking these things through. And I will miss San Diego, but I won't miss San Diego. Wink, wink. Right?
Yeah. I miss San Diego. Please tell your wife hello, and Merry Christmas to you. Happy holidays. Thanks, Nestor.
Clark Judge, TOF, and the Talk of Fame Network, the way to find him out on Twitter. You can find me in the buyatoyota.com audio vault 24 hours a day from anywhere in the world on your mobile device by downloading the TuneIn radio app. We come in crystal clear from anywhere in the world. It is the buyatoyota.com audio vault. Nasty at WNST.net is the way to find me on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram, streaming live on our Facebook, as well as our YouTube WNSTV channel. Happy holidays to everybody out there. I'm going to get some Charlie Ekman into the mix here before it's all over with. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, and WNST, Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports.